This is big news today. We're talking about Jane Doe. We finally now know her identity as Anna Kane.
He was so mad. I think he had a little poo-poo in his panties when he saw me. He had a little shirt. He had a hot.
Well, it does potentially change things and change things for other victims as well. So there is a strategic benefit here because maybe people that don't want their identity revealed, maybe they'll be a little bit hesitant to file a lawsuit.
The bombshell we've all been waiting for has finally dropped, and trust me, it's absolutely earth-shattering. Anna Kane, the wife of NHL sensation Evander Kane, has just stepped out of the shadows and into the spotlight, breaking her silence in this explosive lawsuit against music mogul Diddy. After filing her case as Jane Doe, she's been forced to reveal her true identity in court. And despite facing what she describes as terrifying threats and intimidation, she's speaking out with a courage that's leaving everyone absolutely stunned. The accusations she's making against Diddy and his inner circle are beyond shocking. We're talking about heinous acts dating back 2 decades, and now that she's stepped into the light, there's literally a target on her back. But here's what's got everyone talking. Anna isn't backing down one bit, despite what Diddy and his team might have hoped. The burning questions on everyone's minds are absolutely chilling. What exactly is Anna revealing in her testimony? Is there really a price on her head? And perhaps most importantly, what does this mean for her explosive case against one of music's most powerful figures? Let me take you back to where this shocking story began. In December 2023, right after Cassie rocked the entertainment world with her own bombshell lawsuit, a mysterious Jane Doe stepped forward with allegations that sent shockwaves through the industry. Now we know that Jane was actually Anna Kane, and she was one of the very first women brave enough to point fingers at Diddy. The court documents, and trust me, they're absolutely devastating, reveal that she crossed paths with Harve Pierre, the president of Bad Boy Entertainment, back in 2003 when she was just an innocent junior in high school. The details of their meeting are simply heartbreaking. Picture this. A young girl at a photo shoot, probably dreaming of bright lights and stardom, when Pierre sees an opportunity and extends what seemed like a golden invitation to visit Diddy's place. Being young and naturally trusting, she accepted what appeared to be the chance of a lifetime and boarded a private jet to Diddy's recording studio in New York. But what happened next is absolutely horrifying and will shake you to your core. According to the lawsuit, and I'm quoting directly because these words are just so powerful, as the night wore on, the 17-year-old Miss Kane became more and more inebriated, eventually to the point that she could not possibly have agreed to you-know-what with anyone, much less someone twice her age. The documents continue with the chilling revelation that, while at the studio, Miss Kane was graced by Mr. Combs' the third ascent, and Mr. Pierre in that order. And here's what makes this account absolutely undeniable. There are 4 photographs from that very night that prove beyond any shadow of doubt that Miss Kane was indeed in Mr. Combs' New York City studio with him that fateful evening. For what seemed like an eternity, the world knew her only as Jane, but everything changed dramatically this February when the judge made a decision that would alter the course of this case forever. The court dropped an absolute bombshell ruling that forced her to step out of anonymity. The court documents state, and these words are absolutely crucial, the court recognizes that public disclosure of Doe's identity could have a significant impact on her, particularly given the graphic and disturbing allegations in this case. But the judge didn't stop there. In a moment that sent ripples through the legal community, they pointed out how other victims in similarly high-profile cases, like those brave souls who accused Kevin Spacey, were required to reveal their identities as well. The ruling was extensive and detailed, breaking down every single reason why revealing Jane's identity was deemed the necessary course of action. According to the court, the first factor weighs heavily in plaintiff's favor. This case concerns highly sensitive and personal matters, including allegations that defendants moved, rugged, and graped Doe. Although plaintiff is now an adult, she was young when the alleged incidents occurred, making the case particularly sensitive. This part of the ruling actually seemed to favor keeping Jane's identity hidden, but what came next changed everything. The court documents revealed this shocking twist. Doe has failed to identify any particularized harm that revealing her identity would cause. She claims only generally and without corroboration that she will suffer trauma if her identity is revealed and she becomes the focus of media attention. And that's how Anna Kane, after years of hiding in the shadows, was forced to step into the spotlight. For those who might not be familiar with her story, and trust me, it's absolutely wild, Anna was married to Edmonton Oilers player Evander Kane for 3 years before their relationship imploded in 2021. She desperately wanted to keep her identity under wraps, but with Diddy's legal team applying intense pressure, she found herself with no choice but to reveal who she really was. But here's what's got everyone talking. Despite all the pressure and alleged threats, Anna is standing her ground like an absolute warrior. Through her attorney, Doug Wigdor, she released this powerful statement that had everyone's jaws on the floor. "I had hoped to use a pseudonym in pursuing justice for what happened to me as a teenager. Defendants demand that I use my name was an attempt to intimidate me, but I am not intimidated." Her attorney didn't hold back either, emphasizing just how devastating these allegations are by stating that the depravity of these abhorrent acts has not surprisingly scarred our client for life. But hold on to your seats, because this is where things get even more complicated. Anna's past is, well, let's just say it's raising eyebrows everywhere. Her divorce from Evander Kane, it wasn't just messy, it was absolutely explosive. The situation got so intense that a judge actually ordered Anna to undergo a psychological examination because, and this is truly shocking, Evander claims she faked an entire pregnancy just to scam him out of money for fake medical bills. The story gets even more bizarre. According to reports that had everyone gasping, the San Jose Sharks star believed Anna was pregnant with their second child, which was due in February 2022. And it wasn't like he was just being paranoid. He said he watched her belly grow with his own eyes. But everything came crashing down when he reviewed his medical bills one day and discovered something absolutely devastating. Anna had terminated the pregnancy back in July 2022.
So I'm gonna tell you a story. So I had a card, Michigan license. I'm not gonna show I'll show this. So I had my Michigan license with my unmarried name that I showed to the security. Because your girl came losing diamonds. And I don't give a f. She came prepared for the hater. I knew he was going to do something. He was so mad. I think he had a little poo-poo in his panties. When he saw me, he had a little shirt. He had a hot...
Just when you thought the drama couldn't get any more intense, there's more. Court documents reveal that Evander accused Anna of physically attacking him multiple times. We're talking about 7 or 8 punches to the face during heated arguments. In another shocking incident, he claims she pushed him and tugged at his bag while he was trying to get away from her. But perhaps the most disturbing allegation was that Anna dangerously swung their baby daughter around during one of these confrontations. The situation got so dire that the judge had no choice but to grant Evander sole custody of their 16-month-old daughter, even though his demanding hockey career meant he wasn't exactly the ideal full-time parent. Now, this troubled past has some fans questioning the credibility of her case against Diddy, while others are suggesting that perhaps her erratic behavior could be explained by the trauma she allegedly endured at Diddy's hands.
What do you think right from the jump? Do you think this is the right call of the court to rule that she has to reveal her name publicly?
Well, it's a yes and no. I'm used to state law, and under state law in states like California, victims of sexual abuse, especially sexual abuse as a minor, can remain anonymous. But we're in federal court, and there is no corresponding rule of civil procedure. This is one of those cases where laws in different states, or even within a state, I mean, state and federal court can differ. And under the federal rule of civil procedure 10, there's a presumption that the parties are not going to be anonymous.
So why is that, do you think, that the court ruled in this way? I can understand from her perspective why she wanted to keep her name out of the news, but do you think it was a justifiable ruling?
I think it is. Obviously, there's no real clear answer here. Judges have a lot of discretion because, again, it's not like there's a hard and fast rule where if you're a victim of sexual assault, if you're a victim of sexual abuse, you get to remain anonymous, like certain states have. So it's up to the judge, and he or she needs to weigh different factors. And one of them is there any prejudice to the defendant? Does it make it more difficult for him to defend his case not knowing who it is? Is there potential harm to the plaintiff or the victim who wants to remain anonymous? What about the sensitive nature of the allegation? So the judge balanced them here and ultimately ruled that upon balancing, it actually favors Combs, and that's why she had to really unmask herself and identify herself in the pleading.
Unmask is an interesting word to use because we have been talking, you and I, many others, about Jane Doe for about a year at this point. We feel like we know her case inside and out, but now this just blows it out of the water. It's a person now, we have a name. We can kind of trace back the timeline of her life. How does that change things for Anna Kane now that her name is public?
Well, it does potentially change things and change things for other victims as well. So there is a strategic benefit here because maybe people that don't want their identity revealed, maybe they'll be a little bit hesitant to file a lawsuit or accuse someone like Combs if they have to identify themselves. Obviously, there are people watching. Some of them believe that, she was assaulted and what she's doing is righteous. And I'm sure there are people watching who disagree. And, when people are identified in a very public lawsuit, which this is, I wouldn't be surprised if she gets some hate comments or folks who don't believe her. So it may be an impediment. I certainly believe victims of abuse, but it may give some of them pause when deciding whether to file a lawsuit or not.
That's interesting, talking about future lawsuits that could be filed against P. Diddy or whoever else it may be. But there already are some John and Jane Does out there who filed suit. They just haven't made their name public as of yet.
But here's another twist that's got everyone talking. Legal experts are emphasizing that this is actually a judge-specific ruling, which means it might not have any impact on the other Jane and John Does who are pursuing cases against Diddy.
So what do you think this ruling about Anna Kane means for those suits? Do you think they will have to reveal their names?
Not necessarily. Really, this is a judge-specific ruling. Now, with respect to this judge, absolutely. I would advise my clients, and I represent victims of sexual abuse all the time. I'd say, if we draw this judge, there is a very real possibility that you're going to have to identify yourself. You still want to move forward. I have clients all the time that tell me, I'm scared, I'm worried about myself, about my family, people online. I don't want to do this unless I can remain anonymous. So it is an important factor, and I think lawyers are going to have to start advising their clients, hey, if we draw the wrong judge in federal court, you may have to identify yourself and you still want to move forward. But with respect to different judges, it doesn't matter. There's no precedential impact. One judge doesn't have to follow another judge, of course, unless it's a higher court, which this is.
It's interesting about this case, too. You pointed out Jane Doe was only 17 when these allegations occurred, so obviously she's underage at that point. But you mentioned there's no statute federally if the person is underage to remain anonymous. So do you think that is going to affect the other cases as well? Because we do have some that allege P. Diddy abused them. They're only 9 years old, 13 years old. Now, if there's no federal statute about that, that's one thing, but also it's a really young, tender age. So does that play into all of it?
That's something the judge may take into consideration. Obviously, we're talking about allegations that are more than 2 decades old with respect to Anna Kane and with respect to the 13-year-old. So the question is, is a judge going to take that into consideration? Hey, you were 9, you were 13, you weren't 17. Now, obviously, Anna Kane was just in high school at the time. She was just in 11th grade when all this allegedly happened. So I still think that she's a minor. So will a judge potentially draw a distinction? I don't know. I think it's going to really depend on the judge and what their views are in terms of transparency and public access in these types of cases.
Now, here's the question that's keeping everyone on the edge of their seats. Will Anna be called to testify during Diddy's criminal trial? After all, her case was like a domino that set off this whole chain of legal troubles for the former music mogul.
It's certainly possible, and obviously there's a higher standard in a criminal case, and criminal prosecutors tend to be a little bit more conservative. They're not going to take a kitchen sink approach and charge the more than 100 victims who will probably file civil lawsuits in this case. Obviously, dozens of them have already. They're going to pick and choose the ones that they think are the strongest witnesses and victims. That being said, Sierra, you and I have talked about this. Minor victims change the game for Combs, for Jay-Z. It doesn't matter, and this is why. The argument has always been that, at least with respect to the freak-offs that happened, they were consensual. Well, certainly someone like Kane or any other minor can't consent to sexual contact, so the defense will be very different. It'll be that the contact never happened at all and that this is all fabricated.
It's interesting we're talking about people being named because we have Jane Doe, we now know her name is Anna Kane, and then in a different suit we have Celebrity A that we now believe to be Jay-Z. There's still Celebrity B, a female, we're not exactly sure who she is, we could infer, but now we have Jay-Z's name listed here. Do you think that some of the other lawsuits that right now just have a person listed as unidentified or Celebrity A, whatever it may be, that their identities could also be revealed soon too?
I do believe so, and this goes to some of the strategies that we've talked about, right? The defense wants to unmask these plaintiffs, but some of the plaintiffs' lawyers, what they're trying to do is enter into a pre-litigation settlement, right? Obviously, that's confidential. We talk about lawsuits. Those are public, right? The allegations are public. Maybe you can remain anonymous, maybe you can't, but the details are certainly public. Obviously, an out-of-court settlement before a lawsuit is private. So what Tony Busby and some of the lawyers representing the plaintiffs tried to do is, negotiate a pre-litigation settlement. Obviously, it didn't work in the Jay-Z case, and now that's all become public. But I do believe that that is the first domino, and we're going to see more and more celebrities named, whether it's Celebrity B. Obviously, there's a lot of speculation as to who that is, that female celebrity. But I wouldn't be surprised if there's other celebrities named as well, because, I'm here in Hollywood, and there are a lot of people who went to Diddy's white parties, and allegedly, a lot of people who participated in these freak-offs, whether as actual participants or witnesses. So I think it's just a matter of time before we start seeing and hearing more names.
It's interesting the parallels between P. Diddy and now Jay-Z, the fact that we have a year ago, P. Diddy did not settle with Cassie before she filed, and that's, again, we can all go back to that. That's what opened the floodgates. And now again, we see this with Jay-Z, didn't settle outside of court. Now we, the public, know his name. What do you make of that?
Yeah, this is going to go one of two ways. And not only did Jay-Z not settle, he actually filed against Busby. Pretty aggressive move alleging extortion. So there was no offer. And in fact, a lawsuit was filed affirmatively by Jay-Z's lawyer, Alex Spiro of Quinn Emanuel. So that case isn't going to settle. So I think this is going to go in one of two ways. Either this is going to be a one-off case that Jay-Z and his lawyer will defend, potentially settle. I'm not saying it's going to go all the way to trial, but it's just going to be one. Or this might be a Me Too type situation. Having represented lots of victims, there is always a hesitation to be first, especially if you're filing against a rich and powerful individual that has a lot of assets, especially access to lawyers. So we've seen it with Cassie Ventura, right? When she filed, other people came forward. So is this going to be a snowball effect like we saw with Diddy, or is this just going to be an isolated case? I think we'll know in the coming weeks and months.
For now, Anna's holding her head high with a pretrial conference scheduled for January 2025. But her supporters are absolutely terrified for her safety. And honestly, can you blame them? One fan brought up this chilling piece of history that sent shivers down everyone's spine. Diddy has a history of witness tampering and was alleged to offer a $1 million hit on Tupac in 1996. I'd be scared for my life too. And speaking of other accusers, the judge's decision is having ripple effects throughout the entire case. Judge Mary Kavis-Kosel has ordered another accuser, Candace McCree, to also step out of the shadows and identify herself in her case against Combs. This decision has legal experts divided, with some arguing it could discourage future victims from coming forward, while others believe it's essential for ensuring a fair trial. What makes this case even more intriguing is how Anna's troubled past might actually play into her narrative. Some legal analysts suggest that her history of emotional instability could be seen as a direct result of the trauma she allegedly experienced as a teenager. It's a complex layer that adds both vulnerability and credibility to her story, depending on how you look at it. The timing of all this couldn't be more dramatic, with Anna's revelations coming at a crucial moment when multiple allegations against Diddy are coming to light. Her case has become a pivotal piece in a much larger puzzle, potentially influencing how similar cases might be handled in the future. And while her pre-trial conference in January 2025 seems far away, the legal community is watching every move, every filing, and every statement with bated breath. So, what do you think? Did the judge make the right call in forcing Anna to reveal her identity? Is her life really in danger now that everyone knows who she is? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to check out our other videos that dig deep into this absolutely explosive case. Trust me, this story is far from over, and you won't want to miss a single detail of what happens next in this shocking saga.